The arena was loud long before the first punch landed because everyone knew this fight mattered. Amir Khan walked in as the polished champion, Olympic silver medalist, lightning-fast hands, a fighter built for highlight reels and dominance. Across the ring stood Lamont Peterson, a hometown warrior from Washington, D.C., carrying none of Khan's glamour, but all of his hunger. This wasn't just England versus America. It was speed versus pressure, elegance versus endurance. From the opening bell, Khan wasted no time reminding the world why he was special. His footwork was sharp, his jab snapped, and his combinations came in blinding flashes. Peterson pressed forward anyway, absorbing shots just to get close enough to work. Then, suddenly, the fight exploded. A perfectly timed right hand caught Peterson clean, dropping him to the canvas in the opening round. The crowd gasped. This was the nightmare scenario for the challenger. Khan stood calm, composed, like a man in complete control. The message seemed clear. This was going to be a long night for Lamont Peterson. But boxing has never cared about scripts. Peterson rose without panic, eyes locked, breathing steady. He didn't rush. He didn't retreat. He walked forward again, accepting the risk, accepting the punishment, believing something deeper than speed would carry him through. As the round ended, Khan had scored the knockdown and the headlines, but Peterson had already shown something harder to measure: resilience. And in championship fights, resilience has a way of changing everything. As the fight moved into the middle rounds, the rhythm began to shift. Khan was still fast, incredibly fast, but Peterson stopped trying to chase him. Instead, he cupped the ring, stepping into Khan's space, forcing exchanges instead of sprints. Every second Khan spent circling was a second Peterson spent closing distance. The punches to the body started landing, not always clean, not always loud, but constant. Each one demanded payment. Khan responded with flurries, sharp combinations that reminded everyone of his class, but the fight was no longer being fought at his preferred pace. The champion's legs, once spring-loaded, began to settle. Peterson's confidence grew with every step forward. He wasn't winning rounds clearly, but he was changing the feel of the fight. The referee became increasingly involved, stepping between the fighters, issuing warnings, disrupting momentum. For Khan, the interruptions were frustrating. For Peterson, they were fuel. This was becoming less about technical superiority and more about who could impose their will. Khan boxed beautifully in spots, snapping Peterson's head back, pivoting off the ropes. But Peterson refused to slow. He kept touching the body, kept leaning, kept pushing. The crowd sensed it. This was no longer a showcase. It was turning into a grind, and grinding favors the man willing to suffer longer. By the end of these rounds, the knockdown felt distant. The fight was alive, unpredictable, and leaning towards something far more dangerous than speed. Then came the moment that changed the fight's emotional balance. Warnings turned into penalties. A point was taken. The referee's presence grew heavier with every clinch and inside exchange. Suddenly, the fight had a third character, and no one was sure who benefited. Khan looked confused, visibly irritated, forced to reset again and again. Peterson, meanwhile, stayed focused. He didn't argue. He didn't react. He simply walked forward and worked. This was the phase where championship fights are truly decided, not by clean punches alone, but by composure. Khan still landed the cleaner shots. His uppercuts split Peterson's guard, his right hand flashed at unexpected angles. But Peterson's pressure never paused. He absorbed, responded, and answered with physicality. The judges were now faced with a dilemma boxing fans know all too well. Do you reward clean, flashy punches or relentless aggression? Every round felt razor thin. The crowd roared with every Peterson advance, while Khan's supporters held their breath every time he touched the ropes. Fatigue crept in subtly, not dramatic, not obvious. but enough to slow reactions by fractions of a second. And in elite boxing, fractions change outcomes. As the round slipped away, the fight no longer belonged to the man who scored first. It belonged to the man who refused to leave. The championship rounds arrived with tension thick in the air. Khan's speed was still there, but it was no longer effortless. Each combination required intention. Peterson sensed it. He pressed harder, digging to the body, crowding Khan's space, forcing him to fight when he wanted to move. These weren't devastating punches. They were taxing ones, the kind that drain legs, slow breath, and steal confidence inch by inch. Khan answered back with heart, firing combinations, refusing to fold, reminding everyone why he was a champion. But Peterson's presence was constant, unrelenting. Every exchange ended with him closer than before. The referee's involvement continued, adding to the chaos, making the rounds feel disjointed, emotional, tense. This was no longer about dominance. It was about survival and control. Khan boxed, Peterson imposed. Neither man broke. As the final rounds approached, it became clear this fight would not end with a knockout. It would end with opinions, arguments, and debate. The final bell loomed like a verdict waiting to be read. Both fighters emptied what remained, trading in exhaustion, driven by pride more than power. When the bell finally rang, neither raised their arms. They knew this fight was no longer in their hands. Silence fell as the fighters waited, faces bruised, chests heaving, eyes searching for certainty. The scorecards were read slowly, deliberately, each number carrying weight. Then the words landed, majority decision for Lamont Peterson. The arena erupted. For some, it was justice. For others, robbery. For boxing, it was another reminder of its cruel beauty. Amir Khan had scored the knockdown. He had landed the cleaner punches. He had moments of brilliance. But Lamont Peterson had owned the space, dictated the fight's emotional tone, and refused to yield. This was not a loss decided by one punch, but by 12 rounds of will. Boxing doesn't always reward the fastest hands or the prettiest combinations. Sometimes it rewards the fighter who keeps coming when the other can't make him stop. Careers shifted that night. Narratives were rewritten, and fans were left arguing long after the lights dimmed. That is the mark of a great fight, not clarity, but impact. Amir Khan versus Lamont Peterson wasn't just a championship bout. It was a lesson in what pressure does to talent, what grit does to speed, and why boxing will forever belong to those willing to endure the longest.